Brendan.
Emily?
I really screwed up.
Screwed up how?
The brick.
What?
I didn't know it was bad, but the pin's on it now. You gotta help me.
Slow down now. This isn't good. No. Emily said words I didn't know. Tell me if they catch.
Brick? No. Tug? Tug might be a drink, like milk and vodka. Pin? You know the kingpin. Dope runner, right? Big time. What are you gonna do?
She asked for my help. I just want to know if she's okay.
So what's first?
I'm gonna start shaking things up.
So you didn't know this boy?
No, sir. Never seen him.
And he just hit you.
He asked for my lunch money first. Good thing I brown bagged it. You're coming into a certain situation. It's twisted. I'm looking for Emily.
You left her.
Yeah, I did.
You better be sure you want to know what you want to know.
Complicated. Everyone's got their thing.
In the upper crust, the Shady D's, they've got symbols so they can tell each other that we're getting around.
Coffee and pie.
Coffee and pie. Oh my.
Keep up with me now.
Get a cigarette?
I don't smoke.
I've seen you smoke.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
I thought we had orange juice. I'm sorry.
Water's fine, ma'am. Thanks.
Oh, wait a minute. We have apple juice. It's country style.
If I get to the bottom of whatever this is,
What do you want?
just to see you sweat. It's too hot.
You got a discipline issue with me? Write me up or suspend me.
I see that you're trying to help her. And I don't know anybody who would do that for me.
You are dangerous. I set out to know, put her on the spot, and put her in front of the gun. There's not much chance of coming out clean.
All right.
Indeed.
I think it's pretty funny that it's pretty funny that the one time there's a adult in that movie that's a parent, it's the 26-year-old's it's the Kingpin's mom.
Yeah, it's the villain's mom who is very hospitable. Yes.
Yeah.
Which
She's
is
Kind of the best part, really. I think she deserved to have a bigger role, much bigger arc. You know.
Backstory, how she became
Yes.
the mother of a kingpin. Did she know that her son was the kingpin? Like, does she know what's going on in the basement? That's a big ass basement too. Anyway, this is movie night extravaganza. We are here at a later time than usual. You know, hanging out, talking like Humphrey Bogart, apparently, and you know, getting ready to sell some heroin. I am Forrest Miller. I am joined, as always, by J. Andrew World, artist, illustrator, and most likely to noir.
Yes. This was fun. I've never seen this movie before. Completely missed it. So this was an adventure.
It was indeed an adventure. I haven't seen it before either.
Oh, really? Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
See, Forrest, you have no excuse. This was I had like small, tiny children.
He was a
Yeah,
small,
we
tiny
might-
children when this came out.
True.
2005. I mean, I was 11. I think I could have seen this. So maybe. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, it is rated R, I guess. But yeah, I don't
We'll
know.
get
how
our
I
finest
didn't
fact checkers on that. We'll get it back to the audience.
Come on, I saw RoboCop when I was 10. What are you talking about?
Actually, I did too.
see it. All right. Joined also by Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, lead of Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. You got Caterwall coming up. Plug away on that.
It's 4-day music festival in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Starts Friday. 50 bands. You know, we're playing. Lots of other bands are playing. Caterwall.org. Saturday's almost sold out, which is our night. Coincidence. That's not because of me, but and it's it's gonna be a great time. So and also we made a Caterwall YouTube channel. So if we can get to 100 subscribers by Friday, we're gonna live stream stuff from it.
Yeah, and it
But
should be
it's
in
like
the
52, I think.
it should be in the show notes. underneath the thing. So if anybody, if anybody sees that and goes underneath it, definitely subscribe and get Conan to 100, or Caterwall, not
Get
just
Caterwall
Conan,
to it.
but
Yeah. And then Brick. I saw this movie when it came out in the theater. Loved it. Thought it was fantastic. I am a big Rian Johnson fan. I think all his movies are interesting. I think this one is no exception. I was the one that kind of pushed for it for Noir Month, and one of the reasons why is because it's placement, just like I pushed for LA Confidential in that same way, which is a very different kind of movie, right? And I think that as we all know, because I say it almost every episode, I don't really like getting into the noir and neo-noir conversation, but this is absolutely a quintessential neo-noir, but it's important to show the evolution of the form and the fact that like part of the form of this movie is self-referential towards the genre in earlier films. So anyway, looking forward to getting into all that, and I'm glad Aaron didn't hate it as much as the last few times he saw it.
And that brings me to Aaron and Carlee of Hit Factory. A 90s podcast that talks about film, politics, ideology of the whole 90s, that decade, which is kind of funny that you didn't come for LA Confidential because that was we discussed the 90s kind of throughout that entire conversation. That was our last episode, but
Yeah. Well, we've done that one on the program before. It was a really good conversation. You can go and check it out with one of our good friends, Jesse Hawken, who is a podcaster himself. Check out Junk Filter as well. I'll plug him here. But we actually really enjoy talking about movies that aren't from the 1990s when we go on other people's shows. It's like such a we spend so much time in that decade, and I realize, I've never been a big like Letterboxd person, and just started tracking like this year because I was like, I'm gonna watch a lot of like new to me stuff, and make sure that I like keep a diary entry of it so I can remember what I saw and look back at it. And I realized that like for a little bit it was like for the show, we're watching at least like one 90s movie a week, and then maybe like an additional one or two for like research purposes. So getting into the aughts is fun too, because it's like when I was at like the peak of my cinematic discovery as well. And like when I came to Brick, I always think of Rian Johnson as like a film student's filmmaker, and not like in a derogatory or pejorative way, just that like I think engenders a lot of like a lot of good feelings, a lot of goodwill, a lot of like imagination on behalf of people who are working with like minor budgets and getting kids and people who are like new to the actual like kind of, nuances of filmmaking into like thinking about how one would construct a film. Carlee, you talk now for a little bit.
This is my first time seeing this movie. The only other experience I had with it was in a conversation a few days prior to watching it, where Aaron told me how much he disliked it. And I was like, cool, excited, can't wait. And when he was describing it to me, he had said like, there's a lot of like really great noir script writing, but it's coming out of the mouths of teenagers, and I was like, oh god, that sounds insufferable. And then we watched it and I was like, holy shit, I loved that.
It's pretty good.
So I'm excited to talk about this because I was very surprised by this movie, especially when I was thinking about the premise, and I was like, this sounds a little bit repellent to me, but it was anything but that.
And I will say, as Andy alluded to, I think it was Andy, we watched it this time. This was, I think, the third time I've seen it. The first time was like when it came out. I was like working retail at like a Best Buy and like picked it up on DVD when it came out because I had heard good things coming out of like Sundance. And I think I was like, just at the age where I felt like it was overwrought, a little impenetrable. I didn't quite get what it was doing. Didn't have a ton of familiarity with classic noir. Had never heard the name Dashiell Hammett, I think, until like maybe like a year later in like a lit class. And then I watched it again, like in my mid to like late 20s, and I think was just like too embittered and cynical at that point, and like, this still fucking sucks. This is stupid. I get it now, but I also think it's silly. And then I watched it, the other night, and I told Carlee, I was like, I'm as astounded as anybody to relay that. I think it kind of worked for me this time. I actually thought it was like pretty fucking good. It's fun. Like it overcomes a lot of the obstacles it kind of sets for itself, and is really, really entertaining. Just like a good noir mystery.
Hats off to Conan and the Movie Night Extravaganza crew for bringing us a film that we both loved, and that also you moved Aaron on, which is tough to do.
That's right.
I'm very rigid.
It's kind of shot in like the A24 style, right? Like the A24, like kind of like, you know, like the lighting when he's talking on the phone or whatever in that phone booth. Like there's a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of natural lighting.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into that, can I just say that when I did see this in a theater, where I saw it was the Parkway in Oakland, where I lived for 22 years. I think y'all are Bay Area.
Hey, we know the Parkway.
We love the Parkway, yeah.
At the old Parkway. I used to live like a block and a half from it.
And the new Parkway.
The new Parkway is also great, but that's not where I saw this.
Oh, that's an awesome. The old Parkway is an awesome theater to see a movie like this at.
And I'm only bringing it up because you're Bay Area folks, and I was one for most of my life. So
yeah, right on.
I think the last thing I saw at the new Parkway before like life stopped for a couple of years was we went to like a midnight showing of The Dark Crystal over there, and it ruled.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my god, that was so intense.
That was a good episode of this show too. I think that was a movie night Fantasia, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about. I mean, we still do our Dark Crystal back and forth with the.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Skeksis violence.
Skeksis violence. Yeah.
Skex pests.
Yeah. So the most 2005 thing. I was watching interviews that Rian Johnson did at the time at Sundance, and he was explaining the plot, and he was like, "I know that sounds retarded," and like throwing that word into there, I was like, "Oh my god, this is like." I was instantly thrown back to like 2005. Like, oh yeah, like you could say that at that point, I guess, like without people getting upset at you. Like,
for me, the most 2005 thing was the scarves worn with tank tops.
Yeah,
I don't know about y'all, but like I did that.
Ooh,
I was that's right. Yeah. That's Skeksis violence, if you ask me.
Lots of light wash. Lots of light wash, boot cut denim, and square toed shoes, and the good stuff from the mid-aughts.
There's also the whole army that Tugger has they all look like Eminem. Like it's an entire army of like dudes that look like kids that were in the fucking Real Slim Shady video.
Yes,
it's like the video for Mosh. You guys remember the video for Mosh that was sort of like he was against Bush and like Eminem's getting political and like it was like there's like an army of Eminems marching on the didn't work by the way. John Kerry still fucking lost, but
it did not work. No.
We talked about it the other day that on the last episode that the only reason Eminem's kind of gotten away with as much as he has, I think, is because he was able to he's come out against Trump and against Bush too. Like his like vaguely liberal politics, I guess I think are the only thing that's like stopped him from everyone being like, aren't you like kind of a domestic abuser? Like at least
right.
At least theoretically, at least in your art, like and
he's like,
but I don't
line
like Trump.
For like what's acceptable when it comes to liberal politics moves all the time, depending on what the topic is.
Yeah. It's very circumstantial.
Yeah,
for sure.
And like I know we want to talk about Brick eventually, but like this is like a thing we get into on our show all the time. We just did an episode about a film that stars James Woods, and I caught some heat on Twitter like a couple weeks ago for saying that I was excited to see John Voight act in like a real movie again because I think he's a good actor.
He's a good actor.
Yes. And like he's a good actor. But he's an Academy Award winning actor. Like it's an objectively true thing to say he's a good performer. He's talented and good at his job.
I was actually blown away with him in Ali. Like I wasn't expecting that.
Oh my god, I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen it. I was talking about that today too. But like it's amazing like that. Yeah, like that just threshold of who's problematic and who's acceptable. Like obviously Johnny Depp is kind of a shitbag and like he's persona non grata right now. But then like you said, we all love Eminem and we're not worried about anything that has to do with his history of potential abuse. Sorry, we're not going to talk about that thing on here anymore. Let's talk about Brick.
Yeah. We are. It is interesting though that there is sort of like what is the metric for being able to accept the fact that someone that maybe has intolerable politics is good at what they do, right?
Yes.
Right. And we talked about that with LA Confidential. James Ellroy is one of the best noir writers, but I think I threatened him in various ways as the show went on, and I drank more.
And it escalated.
Where I was talking about if I were to hang out with him in person, it would like probably be a horrible experience.
Oh yeah, he's a difficult person for sure.
Yeah, like more so than Mamet, who took a hard neocon turn. But we are here to talk about Brick. Let's talk about Brick. I think it's a movie we're talking.
Yeah,
about.
so I think an interesting place to start this. I have a clip of Rian Johnson.
God damn it.
Rian Johnson talking about Dashiell Hammett, and I guess he first heard about Dashiell Hammett from Miller's Crossing was the first time he ever,
hell yeah.
So he
which we somehow didn't do this month. It somehow didn't make the cut, which is astounding. But yeah. Anyway.
And then I said, "Do you want to do it for This Is Revolution?" And then we chose Fargo, which I like Fargo more than I like Miller's Crossing, but more fun.
Sometimes we do things because they're popular, but not often.
I never do anything because it's popular. I get abuse heaped at me. So.
Rian Johnson, I'm curious. When I first watched Brick, I watched it twice. The first time I thought of Mickey Spillane and Mike Hammer. And it was partly because of the violence. If you remember the old Darren McGavin show with Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer, it was like fist and mouth and reading those old pulp novels. I first thought of Mickey Spillane, then I read, of course, it's Dashiell Hammett that you're taking after. How much difference was there, actually?
Well, actually, I'm most familiar with Hammett, and most directly from most people know Hammett from The Maltese Falcon, from Sam Spade, but The Maltese Falcon was actually the only thing that Sam Spade was in. Hammett's main guy was the Continental Op, who was kind of a much thicker kind of brutish guy than the more slim charismatic Spade. And the Continental Op's main asset, besides his just straightforward determination, was his ability to take an absurd amount of physical punishment. And if you read any of those short stories, it's painful, man. We did a lot of, we put Joe through the ringer with Brick, but it's nowhere near just even the mildest of Hammett's stories. And I think that's but it's also, you talk about Mickey Spillane. I think it's just a very integral hallmark of the genre, I think. And that's something that's kind of in a very primal way related to the essence of that, of the detective character, and kind of part of what is his whole kind of masculine, mystique in a way, the fact that he just keeps getting up, that's kind of the essence of it, no matter what you hit him with. And no matter, there's that amazing scene in Red Harvest where the detective has been up for like literally 72 hours and he lies down in a bathtub filled with ice for like 10 minutes to shock his system into staying awake. And you're just like, oh my God, but they keep getting up and they keep getting up, and that's kind of the essence of it. That's kind of what we tried to grab a little bit of in Brick.
Just watched Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Mysterious Skin, and he's punished there too in a different way for different reasons. But I've often thought to myself, as a gay man, I think I had a conscious erotic fantasies around the violence in Mickey Spillane and some of those detective things. Because that kind of violence, especially when it reaches that absurd level and bears no realistic, has no realistic basis to it, is very sexy, I suppose, if you like men. And there was something quite sexy in Brick, and I didn't realize what it was at first, but I realized it was this cartoonish violence, and he keeps getting up, and he's actually good at fighting too.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the physical kind of, roundness of it, it was the contrast between movie fighting and actual fighting was brought into sharp relief at some point when there's a scene where Noah Fleiss, who plays Tugger, is punching Joe repeatedly down. There's like one take where we're moving the camera back and forth and there's like 4 hits in it. And what's in the movie is the 6th take of that, because on the 7th take, Fleiss actually connected with a punch, and unlike the 3rd hit, and Joe went down. And I was just watching at the monitor, and because we had it lined up correctly, it just looked like any other punch in one of the other takes, except that Joe didn't get up.
Just like James Ellroy wouldn't have got up after I was done with him. Am I right? Yeah. Oh no, that sucks, man.
There's an interview that I cut pieces out of with that guy talking to that interviewer talking to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he gets like real weard with him. And he's asking
excited
questions
about him
like,
getting beat up.
he's asking him questions about like how much he's in bed in that movie, and he's like, is that part of the whole thing? And like, I don't know, it was interesting to hear him just be like, well, listen, I think this violence is very erotic as a gay man. It's like, I don't know
it feels like it's 10 minutes and or one drink away from going very different directions. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he makes an interesting point, which is that there is an element of sort of like sexiness to the specter of violence in noir films. Like that's a very real thing, but he made it weird.
Yeah.
Like when he said it.
I don't know. I think that it's funny also with the Mickey Spillane, reference in that, because Mickey Spillane is like this far right. I mean, he was incredibly far right and like conservative, and he was incredibly pissed when they made Kiss Me Deadly, because they kind of satirized his work. Like they had it as this intense situation with Mike Hammer as like an immovable force, I guess, that was in was in an ecosystem where he wasn't quite I don't know, like it was clearly a far more liberal ecosystem than he was supposed to be in, I guess. And so Mickey Spillane got like furious about that. That was actually the first episode we did was on Kiss Me Deadly. And and so it's kind of
we talked about this on Noir Month too, right? I mean, like that, like ultimately, like noir attracts people of a conservative bent to a certain degree, at least as far as writers go, which doesn't mean that like that reductively to say that it's like a conservative genre, but by the same token, like a lot of people are drawn to it, they get something out of it, not from narrative function and allegory, but are more like, oh yeah, I want to be like that dude. I'm like, no, that's not the point of this movie. You don't want to be like
right.
Yeah.
Well, that is not.
It's aspirational for them.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's why. Yeah.
And that's like the thing about like conservative authors too. I think, it's like at a certain point, like what can you do besides like satirize their work to a certain extent? Like anyone who I think like engages with like conservative ideology and any sort of like genre storytelling and like has a even slightly more objective viewpoint, like it's fun to poke fun at it a little bit, because it is funny when it's done kind of in earnest, like I think of like Starship Troopers, right? Like you couldn't imagine like somebody less like equipped to take on like the actual like fascist ideology of that book than Verhoeven, and like he gets it, like he knows that it's like you can approach this thing and like analyze it from that regard. And I think that this movie actually has like I don't want to say a liberal sensibility to it, but I like the way that it kind of confuses and obfuscates like this sort of like traditional archetypes of the noir a little bit,
Yeah, and
we're talking about it.
But like there is. I mean, I have clips of this for later, but like Joseph Gordon-Levitt talks about Joseph Gordon-Levitt talks about the archetypes and that part of it, and like they did think that through, and the tropes, and how like I mean, from even like the vice principal kind of character, right? Like the authority figure is the only authority figure you really see in the whole movie, but it wouldn't make sense if he was like a cop. I mean, the cops do come in, but you never see them, and so like he's like that authority figure, and I really like the either write me up or suspend me line or whatever.
Right? Yeah. It's so funny because it's like, what would it be? A truant officer? I mean, like, what would be the analog, right? And I
love that they try to like harden the persona there by calling them the VPs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's all the trappings of like, the day-to-day stuff that you would find in a high school, but with this noir sheen over it. And initially I was kind of like laughing to Aaron because it is silly, but the longer the movie goes on and you see like how handedly the actors manage the dialogue and how well the film is actually operating within and also around the noir genre, you can't help but like be attracted to it and be totally like taken in by the story, even when it is silly, and even when Ryan is reminding you like these are 16-year-olds, like with the apple juice and the mom and, and the vice principal.
And Kamala Harris is Kamala Harris is sitting there going, I'm VP.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna make a going after the parents for the kids, the truant officer thing that she got.
Oh yeah, there's
that
lots
people
of
found
stuff
out
there.
about. Then again, I know Carlee and Aaron know because it's like, yeah, Kamala was a very known commodity for everyone in the Bay Area because she challenged Halloran from the right. Was totally gutless on marijuana when there was overstepping federal attorney that tried to whatever. That's not this show.
But she was smoking weed, listening to Tupac and
exactly.
In the late 80s.
Yeah, in the late 80s.
Worth noting as it pertains to what we're talking about with the archetypes and everything, who the performer who plays the assistant vice principal is none other than Mr. Richard Roundtree, aka Shaft. Like blaxploitation all-star.
Oh, so yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, like having him in like the essentially like police captain role, right? Like when it was, for so long, like him as like the loose cannon who was like defying the orders and expectations of the law. Like he's now on the other side of the desk, like in this genre format and like playing this particular role.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
that's because I heard Joseph Gordon-Levitt talk about how it was Shaft, and I was like, oh shit, like that. I didn't even put that together in my head, but yeah.
We've been watching a lot of blaxploitation recently. I otherwise probably like would not have recognized him off the bat. I certainly didn't when I was growing up, but like him and like Jim Brown and
not in that outfit you wouldn't have. It's like you're not thinking him as an administrative functionality.
Because this was around the same time he guest starred on Blade, the series, where he played Blade's father,
Papa Blade.
Oh,
yes, Papa Blade in
I didn't realize
the
that.
classic episode with Sticky Fingers as Blade.
Classic episode, yes. The classic episode we all know and love.
Yes,
right.
Of the show that only lasted one season because it really.
Yes, of a show that I was not aware that existed until 45 seconds ago.
I think that like talking about this movie though, the extremeness of parts of it, right? Like it's legitimately shocking when Tugger like blows fucking Dode's brains out or whatever.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And like the extremeness of the violence, I think, and the extremeness of the situation that like it's not like they're selling weed, like they're selling fucking heroin to like in this high school. Like everybody apparently everybody in the entire high school is selling heroin to each other. And like the extremeness of that and the actual fact that the girl like gets killed, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not just that, she's missing or something. Like the extremeness of that versus like kind of the day-to-day functionary stuff of being at a high school. Like having the Brad character or whatever be like, oh, put me in the game, coach. You're gonna put me in the game. Like the drab, I think, functionality of high school versus like the extremeness of a lot of different elements of this kind of make
the
it
stakes
work.
are pretty big. The stakes aren't small at all.
Yeah.
But you would be fooled into thinking that they're small stakes and like, oh no, this is not small stakes in any way, shape.
Yeah, completely. I was saying to Aaron, as I was thinking more about the film after we finished it, that I actually feel like, on the one hand, there is the sort of subversiveness of having these words come out of, teenagers' mouths. But on the other hand, I was thinking about it more and I was like, but you know what? Like in high school, like I was a fucking drama queen. Like I was completely melodramatic. And the stakes are really high when you're in high school. Like things feel really big. And so on the one hand, there's this interesting play between, the sort of like extremity of the violence and the hard drugs and then, that being split screen against like a high school. But on the other hand, it also kind of feels like it maps back to the feelings of high school. Like some of these things are make or break, or they feel like they're life ending even when they're not. So I also feel like it works in some way.
Yeah, and I mean, we're kind of in the era of like teenage soap operas, right? Where between like Euphoria, Degrassi, like all of those different things, the stakes are really high usually in that, right? Like Degrassi had, Drake getting shot, in the whatever, and like.
But look at Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was in like in the same boat, right? I mean, like it seems like there's always a few, like I know that nobody likes Joss Whedon anymore. Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this was also the same time as Veronica Mars came out too, when Break
Veronica
was released,
Mars,
right? So like it was
Yes,
like high school
absolutely.
noir kind of stuff as well.
And the OC.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's
A little less noir, but-
I feel like it's
A little
easier
bit
to
less.
kind of it's easier though to like tease out that drama, I think, over the course of a TV show than it is a movie. Like, you know, this kind of nails it, I think, the amount of like drama versus violence versus escalation. But you know, with something like Degrassi or like something like that, right? Like there's always like there's famous episodes that people remember that there was violence, or famous episodes people remember where something horrific happened. But like it's hard to keep that up over the course of 90 minutes rather than like across the season, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm finding it very interesting that you keep bringing up Degrassi.
This is the first thing
We
that I
love
thought
Degrassi.
Formative for Forrest.
Formative.
I just you know, this was around that time. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was thinking
And I love that Amy's the one observing that, who just brought up the Blade TV series. No less than
Which,
Classic
by the way,
episode.
I can get somebody from the Degrassi series, the original OG, like from the like the early Halcyon days of the 90s.
Hey.
On if you really want me to.
Ooh, that's exciting.
I mean,
Like
I
right now?
haven't watched
You're gonna bring him on?
Yes.
I haven't
Ladies
watched
and gentlemen.
Get him on right now.
Degrassi. I was just trying to think of a teenage kind of soap opera, like around, you know, with the same kind of genre.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
You were
quite a few
watching
of
the
them.
Kevin Smith episodes, which I think came out around this time.
I think I'm just going to abandon this topic, but I think Veronica Mars is a great example though, because you know that was something where it seems like it would be small stakes, but it is very large stakes. You know, there's like there's rape, there's all kinds of like serious things that like occur in that show, but it still is like teenagers doing a noir at the same time as well.
Skins too, I guess that was
Skins was another one.
Skins,
I like
yeah.
Skins. Gave us what's his name, Jack O'Connell, who I think is a great underrated actor. I wish he made better career decisions in terms of his performances. But you know, one of the things that you're making me think though, in terms of like the stakes of this thing, like I don't know, this is purely anecdotal, but like I grew up like in the Midwest, like in a suburb, and a bunch of bored kids, you know, and I was a pretty good kid. I hung out with like a good crowd for most of that time, like when I was in school. But when I was in like a freshman in high school, I remember distinctly having friends who were like, you know, a little bit more like the troublemakers, like they like cut class and like smoked weed and like, you know, skated and broke shit. And they had like older siblings who they would hang out with who were like well into their 20s. And I remember distinctly like instances of like being afraid for my safety, like in a house with like adults, like young people, but like adults, like drinking and like fighting and smoking and being like, I should not be here. And I think it's like important that like in the movie, like they make an explicit reference to the fact that like the Pin and like by proxy, essentially like probably like Tug and some of that cohort are like actually adults. Like I think they say that the Pin is like 26. And so like, I don't know, there's an interesting kind of like that permeable barrier between like adolescence and like adulthood that they keep crossing that makes some of the like, you know, more noirish and like more violent moments near the end of the movie feel a little bit more convincing to me.
Yeah, which is what also makes it funny that the only parent you see in the entire movie is the Pin's mom, right? Like, you never see any other, like, you never see Brendan's like parents, right? He references his mom once, and like in the middle of the movie, like, oh, did they call your parents or something? And he's like, no, I don't think so. And that was the first time it registered with me, like, oh shit, like this kid has parents. Like I thought he was just kind of out there wandering the streets by himself, and like apparently not. Like
the Brain mentioned his own mother a couple of times, which is weird that they have a character named the Brain in it, because I thought I was like having flashbacks watching Arthur with my kids.
Yo, you know who played the Brain? You know who played the OG Brain? Fucking Steven Crowder. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, that's kind of fascinating too. Well, see, I had a very small group of friends in high school, and all of my friends were either in their 30s, 20s, or 40s. Like I all my friends existed in like this weird space. But like, you know, New Paltz has always been a weird town that like attracts a lot of like, you know, townies and like I guess I'll use the word from a couple weeks ago, itinerant folks, like people that just kind of travel the country and go to like rainbow gatherings, like like, you know what I mean? Like, so people that are just kind of wandering about. And so I was like usually friends with those kinds of people as like a 14-year-old, which is not what I should have been doing, but like, you know what I mean? So like I did see shit that I definitely shouldn't have seen it. And like people were like doing heroin and shit, you know, by the time I was a teenager. So like,
I'm getting flashbacks to this hotel party I was at where these two gutter punks show up and they're like, dude, you know who the best person to drink with is? The homeless guy behind the grocery store.
Well, yeah, that's the guy that'll buy you the fucking beer. That's the thing. Like,
Right.
I drank a lot, like as a teenager or whatever. Like I partied a lot. Like was the first time I ever knew you could really do that. Like I went to private school. I got like sent to private school, like because I have really bad ADHD, and they were like, "We don't want you in public. Like go to private school." So I went there. Like the school paid for it, and I ended up coming to high school and not knowing anybody really because I hadn't been in the the public school system and like not really knowing how to like talk to people. So like I don't know. It was an experience where like I did end up just becoming friends with like the homeless guy behind the thing and being like, "Want a drink?" Like I don't have anything going on. I'm like 15.
Yeah. Well, see, and like this is the thing that I like about Brick. This time watching it and like maybe being out of like my teenage years and like as an adult, and it feels like it actually has like a profound kind of like respect and admiration for that like moment where you're sort of like on the precipice of adulthood, whereas like something like Euphoria feels like it has nothing but contempt. Like it's like exploitative and it's like let's dress up like barely legal adults like scantily and like make sure they're all fucking and dying and whatever like all the time for
well that's because Bill Maher wrote it. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean it's like it's for an adult audience, right? But it's like let's make like children like there's a weird thing there. Sam Levinson, I'm not a fan, but this one feels to me like it's somebody with respect for that feeling of like being forced to kind of like grow up a little bit too fast based on your environment while you're still like supposed to be enjoying childhood a little bit.
Yeah, and Rian Johnson wrote this, co-wrote this during like right out of college, right? Like it took him 10 years to make and write and finish this. So like, he went right from film school, started writing this. This was the project he decided he wanted to work on, and then he tried to get it like made for the next 10 years. So he's kind of coming out of it, I think, at a point where he was just, he was probably like the Pin's age, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. He wasn't in a space where it's like some older guy writing dialogue about, a bunch of teenagers like interacting that hasn't been in high school for like, 30 years. Like he probably had, by the time he made it, it had probably been over a decade, but like it probably was under a decade when he started writing it.
Yeah, and it's clear like how that his proximity to that age like translates really well to kind of the ways in which he superimposes, a kind of traditional noir narrative on top of a high school setting. Like there's that line in the beginning with the brain and Brendan is asking him about like where Emily or Laura or someone is, and he's interrogating him, and they're talking about lunch, like where are you eating lunch these days? And like that's the question that they ask each other because that's what
you do in high school, right? I mean that's like a total high school thing. Yeah, exactly.
And he has that great line, and he says, he's like, lunch, I don't know, lunch is a lot of things, lunch is difficult. And I was just like, that's a perfect noir line, but it's about fucking lunch in a cafeteria. Yeah. It's excellent.
Yeah, well, I mean, the noir version of it is like, oh, where's he hanging his hat, or like where's she hanging? You know what I mean? Like,
yes, right. Exactly.
I mean, it's also like you've been picking your feet in Poughkeepsie, right? Like it's like the French Connection line that like starts.
Yeah,
it's very similar to that. So
Poughkeepsie, you say? I don't know. That's one town over for me.
The other thing I wanted to say briefly about the violence.
People from Medford say that. Yeah, we know people from Medford. You say it all the time. Anyway, go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to say about the violence is like, it is extreme, yes, but it also feels really earned, which is wild considering we open with a dead girl. Like right off the jump, we start with a dead body floating in water, and yet the way that the film is so measured in its escalation, and how sort of like just bludgeoning it is like over the course of the near 2 hours. It does, like when you do get to that scene when Tug blows Dode's head away, like I screamed. Like I
Yeah,
literally screamed.
It builds the intensity because of what came before it, right? Where you just think it lulled into like not complacency exactly, but you think of it as differently, and then you're like, oh, whoa.
It's totally explosive. And
throughout the film, I think up to that point, like the violence was always something that you either got back up from, or there's their moment. I can't remember if it's before or after we see. I think it's right before we see Dode's head get blown. Yeah, it's right before, like 20 minutes before or something. The guy comes in with a blade and he does the Looney Tunes run. And he hits the pole, and then you see him like, but like it's made clear to you that like he didn't die, he just got knocked out by hitting the pole, and it's like done in a very cartoonish way. Whereas I mean, Dode getting his head blown off is not. That is extremely violent and shocking, and just you're like, oh fuck, like, and also I think the fact that he keeps getting up from punches, right? Like it's like every character kind of keeps getting up.
Like that clip you posted, right? That or the clip that you posted, the clip that you put on the show that he talks about like how he just keeps getting up, like he gets knocked down, and and just takes all this
and
physical
gets up
punishment.
again.
Yeah, you're never gonna get him down.
As soon as I said it, I was like, "Here comes Andy."
He's gonna take a whiskey drink. He's gonna take a vodka drink. He's gonna take a lager drink. He's gonna take a cider drink. That's just what he does. Let the guy be.
That's what you do. That's what you do.
Please play us out when we end the show with Chumbawamba.
I wish I could do that without getting instantly flagged.
Instant takedown.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
We don't worry about that on our program, but
the point of that is that like it is almost cartoonish, right? But cartoonish in the way that is old school noir, where the protagonist is always like getting, he's getting sucked by a dame, he's getting like knocked out by the guy he's following, and this and that, but he's always getting back up until he basically can't get up anymore in that grand tradition. And the only thing that's kind of notable here is that like it's like, oh, you look at Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character and you don't think he would be good at fighting, but it's like, oh no, he's kind of like a decent fighter in a weird sort of like unexpected way, which I don't know about y'all's experience, but I knew kids like that in my high school where it's like, oh yeah, don't mess with that guy. Like he looks like that kid's nuts. Like, he's like the Terminator.
The pin says that, right?
Yeah.
Like when Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character first comes to him and is basically demonstrating to him that he's not afraid of him. The pin says, you're either not afraid of me or you're crazy or you're both. And like it's notable too that Joseph Scrappy, yes, he's incredibly scrappy.
Very scrappy.
And his appearance is like comical throughout the entire film. Like he's literally in the same clothes the entire time. His hair is like a joke. He's in these like very silly spectacles, and yet he is an absolute force throughout the whole movie,
which is
I found it very relatable.
Which is
I had bosses that were pretty terrible too, and I was a force as well, so I found it relatable.
I feel like it's a very Humphrey Bogart-esque thing almost. You know what I mean? Like you don't expect that he's gonna be able, like he's not a big guy or like whatever, but he's always kind of holding his own. At the very least, not dying.
Right.
This is the Joseph Gordon-Levitt clip about. It's about the punch that he took that was actually a real punch.
Cool. Awesome.
And the violence in general of the movie.
Appear to be a very physical actor. You throw yourself into a role, even to the point of beyond the point of reason. When I talked to your director, who I loved, Rian Johnson, he said there was one scene where Noah Fleiss's character, I think, Tug is punching you and actually connects. And talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like to take a punch.
Yeah, I've never been hit before. I've never been in a fight before. I was raised by pacifists and, or at least ex-hippies, and never got hit. And I don't know, when you watch movies, it seems like actually getting hit, they always make this sound effect that's kind of almost soft, like the sound effect, but that's not at all what getting hit really feels like. It feels more like it's much harder than that. It feels more like you should hear two pieces of wood like connecting, because that's what it feels like. There's no give to your face, and he hit me right in the face. And I think I remember him hitting me, and I remember how I felt, and then I remember being on the ground. And I don't think I was like out for very long, but Ryan said he didn't even know that it had happened because all the fake punches had been convincing enough that he just thought that it was another one. But then I didn't get up, and then I told everyone that I wasn't okay. And But
one of the things, because I'm a boxing fan, and I see that happen to guys all the time, and there are now some exciting boxing movies, and it's like at that point you're out of the movie, right? When that happens, it's like you're no longer the character. Who are you at that point? What happens to you in your sense?
Well, I guess I was scared for a second because I didn't know what happened. I was more just surprised than anything else. Because, you know, if you're a boxer, at least you're expecting to get hit. You brace yourself for it. You practice it, right? I wasn't expecting to get hit, so I got a little startled. And yeah, I broke character. I guess I need to work on that.
No, they say in the boxing field that the punch you don't see is the one that's devastating.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that. But I saw this punch full well and was expecting to just, you know, fake as if I was taking it like all the other punches. But it didn't work out that way.
I bring this up because the role is so good in the physical side of it. Your character is in part cartoonishly bouncing up and down like a cartoon character, like the Coyote or something. It's I mean, you take an insane amount of violence and just dust yourself off and get right up again. Talk a little bit about that, the demands of a role like that.
Well, I'm glad you bring up Wile E. Coyote, because Looney Tunes were definitely a big influence for the whole physicality and actually just even for the whole rhythm of Brick. Brick is really fast and snappy. And for entertainment's sake, it's not about trying to imitate reality. It's about being quick and fun and intriguing. And oh, am I supposed to hold this? Sorry. And
yeah, go ahead with that line.
Yeah, so we were watching Looney Tunes, and a lot of people bring up the violence in Brick, and there is a lot of violence, but it is it's cartoony like that. It's not an attempt to you know, make you feel how darkly morose, you know, human beings can be towards each other, and violence. It's more theatrical than that, and it's more cartoonish, like you said.
One of the things I bring it up is because your character seems to fight, quote, dirty. In other words, he looks whatever opportunity he has to get the guy down. Like when you fight that football player, you seem completely ill-matched. And then, of course, you just fight unfairly.
No, of course. The character has... he doesn't believe in fighting or anything like that. He's not a martial artist. He just wants to find out what happened to his ex-girlfriend.
Which is
relatable. Kind of uncomfortable.
That was super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was after the guy talks to him about he's like, you lie in bed a lot in this movie, and he's like, I never thought about that. He's like, is that one of those archetypes that you're talking about? And he's like, no. I just I don't know. I was in bed, and I don't know. That guy gets very weird during this.
What if we laid down during this interview?
What would you feel? How would you feel about that?
Yeah, exactly.
I know this isn't the point of that interview, and there's a lot of like actual substance to it, but it's like, I hope this isn't like, you know, slanderous or anything, but like it reminds you that like Joseph Gordon-Levitt for like a time was like a really charismatic like person and like actor and presence, and like was kind of up and coming, and you know, booking good roles. Like he was like a Christopher Nolan movie in like 2010 as he was kind of like at his peak, you know, and like how awful his vibes are now that he's like hit record Joe, like since he started that kind of like whole like media, like
that's right,
you know, like
I forgot that existed.
Yeah, everyone did, but I don't know if you've ever like seen him on Twitter, but like everything, like when you read like what comes out of him on Twitter, it looks like a robot like just like spat something out. It's like, it's just weird vibes all around, and it all feels very like pitchy and like, you know, like hashtag.
Yeah, but that's a lot of. I mean, most celebrities are kind of like that.
No, totally.
He was I will say that. Sorry to interrupt, but I will say that the Brian Koppelman Uber thing, where he's like the Uber asshole. He is an Uber asshole, but the asshole from Uber. I thought he was quite good in that. I thought that was, but he's also like, that character's a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Too.
I think he's a good performer. I think he's a good actor. I just like as a person, like he hopped on a train for like a creative, like collaborative space 10 years ago. If he hadn't had his thing then, he would be like one of the biggest like crypto evangelists now. I bet like he would have something about like that like community element and like pitching it, like that would be him right now.
Yeah.
I liked that Seth Rogen movie he was in, which is kind of probably a break from his, the night before or something. It's a Christmas movie with Seth Rogen.
I
think it's
the night before.
Oh,
yeah.
and he did 50-50 as well, right?
I was thinking that's what I was thinking of. I was like, oh yeah, 50-50 is great.
Because he's in that with Seth Rogen too, where he's like has like terminal like cancer diagnosis or something.
At like a very young age. Yeah. That one's good.
But I don't know. I just I feel like he brought charisma back a little bit for that Seth Rogen movie, and I don't know. It's kind of I mean, it seems like he's probably a cagey person. I mean, a lot of I guess actors are after a while. Like
I don't.
Sure. But
and he started.
I don't know
too,
about
and
y'all,
that
but
never
I
helps.
think his best role was in Angels in the Outfield. That's just me personally.
I forgot about that one.
He's good in that one.
And going back. No wonder why you do a 90s podcast.
No, I mean, I grew up watching that. The one thing
I like
we talked
Looper.
about-
I think Looper's underrated, actually.
We were talking about that
Looper's
film.
great.
I just rewatched Looper and Premium Rush before this, so you know.
Oh yeah.
Which not a good film, but like really good performances from him and Michael Shannon. So you know, there's that at least.
Who do you all think did really well in this movie? I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt, obviously, like he's carrying the whole film, but I also thought that there were some other really, really fantastic performances from supporting characters.
I liked Kara, the theater girl that's like the ultra femme fatale that has
Megan Good.
Megan Good, yeah.
She's good. That was my answer too. Yeah.
Who, if the audience isn't familiar with the name and hasn't seen Brick, if you've seen any predominantly black sitcom on television between like 1998 and 2008,
she was in it.
Megan Good was on it for some time.
It's the law.
She's very familiar, and I really like her in this. Yeah.
I like Noah Fleiss. She was in Stomp the Yard. I totally forgot.
That's what I know her from.
I like Noah Fleiss's tug a lot. He's like a young man's that guy sort of like kind of dude. But like,
yes.
I just think he's like it's such a great character, right? And it's so like it's embodies a trope from a certain type of like high school dude and like takes it this other direction. And
yes,
I think it's a good representation.
I also I like when he slams him up against the wall and he's like because he's going through the bricks or whatever and like looking around at stuff and he slams against the wall and he's like, I just did, I wanted to know what was going on and I'm the fact that I didn't, like, I'm angry. He has like a good line where Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a good line where he's like, I need to know where to send the body of the morgue or something, or where to build the morgue. And he's like, well, then ask. And he's like, well, I tried to ask, but like, I haven't gotten an answer about any of this stuff. And it makes me anxious and angry. And he just stops and puts them down. And he's like, that's understandable. And it's like, yeah. All the fucking time. You're the most angry
line. Yeah. It's like a creature of pure rage. But like, okay, good point.
He's just like me for real. You're mad too. I thought I was the only one that could feel that.
I'm pissed all the time also.
It's so good.
He doesn't, I can't think of many other like big roles, except for that same Joseph Gordon-Levitt Nolan movie, Inception. Lucas Haas is also in that one.
Oh, right.
At the very beginning. He's in it for like the first like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know that I'm a big fan of his like collectively in his body of work, but he does something in this movie that I think is really, really good. I don't know. There's like, I like his character. I like the nuances of his character, like the way that they kind of like make him sort of believable within like the narrative of the film. Like, he has like the cane and you're like, why does this guy have a cane and a cape? And you realize, oh, he's a weirdo. And also like he has like a platform boot. Like he actually has like a physical disability, hence the cane. But then there's like the scene when he's revealing to him that like, revealing to Joseph Gordon-Levitt that like he brought him in because he's afraid of Tug, and like Tug is like kind of like a loose end that like he's afraid is going to pop off and create like some sort of like wreckage. And they're sitting on the beach watching the ocean, and he asks him about Tolkien, and and it's like it's such like a moment that like betrays like a sort of like juvenile quality and like kind of like an Arrested Development, like just like weird kid, like doing all of this like shit kind of thing, where he's like, I really like Tolkien. He's got a really good way of describing things. He makes you want to
and it's like out of nowhere. It's like completely out of context. He's like
just like our last episode where we brought up
No, I watched this right
Gandalf
after
the white
editing.
supremacist.
Yeah, we did Gandalf the white supremacist. Like we went into this weird bit where like Gandalf came back radicalized from the Balrog or whatever, and he comes back as Gandalf the white supremacist. And we were just like like fucking around in the after party and
We
did like
sure were.
So after cutting those clips yesterday and like posting them, I watched this movie right after that, and he's like, yeah, I really got into Tolkien and those Hobbit books, and he's like, you could really visualize the stuff or whatever, like visualize his words, and I was like, yeah, this is how you become radicalized. Is this
radicalized
guy
by
and like
the Tolkien Diaries? It's called.
Fun fact actually, Lucas Haas was in Leap of Faith, which friend of the show Gabriel Horn, that was like one of his first
cool.
He was an extra in that movie. And I remember he bought like the stupidest pair of shoes, love you Gabe, that were like clear combat boots.
Yeah, friend of the show, let's light him up.
Combat, that sounds like it owns. I don't know what you're talking about.
And worn with purple socks.
Yeah,
there's nothing about this
I
that
love
sounds
that.
lame at all.
I don't know, this was also like 1993,
That's right. Lucas Haas was Jack Black's brother in Mars
my
Attacks.
God,
yes,
that's right.
He is very, very good in Mars Attacks too. Actually, as I recall.
Totally forgot he was in that movie.
Yes, he is.
I was trying to place him. I was trying to place his face because I've seen him in stuff, and yeah, Mars Attacks.
That's quite the family in that movie. It's Jack Black, Lucas Haas, and Joe Don Baker as Papa Bear.
And they're like the yokel ass family.
They're the yokels.
Yeah. Which it's hard to picture like after watching this, Lucas Haas as like a yokel type guy. Like he's like the proto. I mean, not proto, but like he's like the goth. When you watch Letterkenny, and they have like they have like the really drugged out fucking like the Skids or whatever. Like that's what his whole like vibe reminded me of. And it's funny because I mean they're also like the drug dealers in that show.
Yeah, he has a perfect like mid-aughts emo kid vibe to him.
There's an alien sex fiend shirt involved, if I remember correctly, which was very notable to me at the time. I was like, alien sex fiend, wow.
Nice.
He's like the drug kingpin, which makes it funny because you're like trying to, because he gets brought in by Tug into the room, and you think like, oh, that must be the drug kingpin, and then he turns around and it's just like this emo dude that's like or goth dude that's limping around.
Yeah, he's just like he's like high school Ichabod Crane.
I was gonna go for the Crow, but yeah, that's
a little bit of all those.
Yeah, all of those things can be true at the same time and more.
Right?
It's true. They're not mutually exclusive, Conan.
I know this is your show and you're the ringleader here, the pin, as it were, Forrest. But while we're on the subject of the violence, and Conan already brought up that chase scene with like the guy that Brad hires who knifes him. And I think that scene is like phenomenal, by the way. And one of the things that I think is so cool about it, I don't know if you all caught this as well, but the entire thing is Foleyed in terms of like the soundscape in it. Like it is not like recorded like in camera or like with actual equipment. The like kind of like clopping of the boots is like too pronounced and too like high up in like the mix, and it really feels like that kind of like noirish like clacking against like the cobblestones kind of thing. Like it feels sort of like the end of The Third Man a little bit, like in like the tunnels and catacombs in terms of like that kind of like chase. And I mean, the entire thing is just like an excellent sort of like sound design, but the most satisfying moment is like when you see him trip the assailant and there's just that like loud resounding like metallic echo when he hits the pole.
and he falls like a Looney Tunes character. Like the way that he does it is like you can tell like he hits his head and then he's like in midair almost for a second and then falls down.
I also love this, like that scene. Truly, the Foley was an artist in that scene.
Well, the other place I think that it really shines is when they're like the final confrontation, right, between the Pin and Tugger or whatever, and you can hear everything happening upstairs, but you don't know what it is. And then the guy comes in and he's been like shot, but then he pisses himself or something. You don't see the blood, like. And then he like falls onto the ground or whatever, which is another kind of weird Looney Tunes kind of moment. But you can hear everything upstairs, but you don't know what's happening upstairs. And you never really find out what's happening upstairs besides like, oh, the brick is gone and everyone's fighting each other. But like, it's kind of just this like gunshot, like, screaming something else. And then for him to, you don't obviously see the Pin get beaten to death, but like assumably the Pin gets beaten to death, and the screaming is, you know, as he leaves, and he's just like, no, I'm gonna dip from here. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Which is
he like takes the weapon and just sort of
slides it back into the room.
I'm out.
Yeah. That sequence, by the way, has one of my favorite compositions in the entire film. Like for how stylistic it is, the film is kind of ugly a lot of the times, which I find like fascinating. Like the camera work is really great, but it's in like a lot of really just kind of like bland, like gray environment,
60s,
mini mall colors.
But like that 60s Johnson era kind of like poverty program building project, which are ugly buildings, you know, not like FDR folks.
Yeah. But in that moment, like the score takes like almost like a kind of like Western like turn, you know, like it has like kind of like the raising sort of like horns and everything, and Brendan JGL's like backing away as like Tug is mercilessly beating the Pin, and we see a shot that's just like a wide on Brendan staring into the room that is like the only thing lit, and you see the silhouette of the Pin fly across like the opening of the doorway and shatter the light, and then it goes black, and then the only light source is coming from like the top of the stairs, like down on him, and that kind of like very noirish, like chiaroscuro kind of like lighting. I don't know why. Like when I was like 15, I remember watching this movie, and that shot like stuck with me. I was like, that's cool. That's a cool composition. I like that. I want to make something like that.
It was kind of, I guess, overshadowed for me by the fact that the next shot is him just kind of jumping out of a window. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like
back to Looney Tunes.
Just for the fact that he's just able to get out the bottom window, and then nobody really notices. Like you hear the cop cars coming. It's just that you don't hear a lot of the, you don't see a lot of the stuff during that whole sequence, right? Like you don't see the guy getting beat to death. You don't see what's going on upstairs. You don't see the cops show up. It just kind of cuts from there. Like everything is kind of implied. But like just to have him kind of like jump up through, I was like, how the fuck is he gonna get out of this house? Like, because you don't know whether the cops are in the house yet. I mean, real vibe, I guess. Like if you've ever been at like a party that the cops arrived at, right? Like everyone's like, get the fuck out of the party. Like when you're underage or something, and everyone has to kind of scatter and figure out how to get out of a house they've never been in before. So like just to have him like realize, oh, there's a window there. Let me just hop right out of it.
How many times have you had to hop out of that window?
Out of that specific window, never. No. I mean, I like usually I kind of realized that like I didn't have drugs on me or anything like that, and like cops weren't really going to say anything to me. You know what I mean? Like they're going to get whoever owns the house in trouble. So I would usually just be like, yeah, I'll stick around and see what happens. But but I've also been, I mean, I've run through like the woods, because then you actually can get in trouble because they're like, yo, this is trespassing. But like if you're in somebody's house who invited you, they're going to get their shit fucking ticketed. And you're like, you know, just put down anything.
It's cool when you're in high school. You're like, I'm neurodivergent and a minor. It's whatever. Right?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. And like even up till like, I don't know, even when I was like 18, like you can still get in trouble for shit. And like, even though you're an adult and you can go to war, but you know, you can still get in trouble for having a beer at a party. But like you just abandon whatever, like you just, you know, if you have a beer, like you just put it down somewhere and then walk away from it. And like, what's the cop going to do? Is this your beer, sir? Let me fingerprint it. Like, no one's going to.
Yeah, I do want to mention the Brain was in the movie The Frailty, which was directed by Bill Paxton and produced by Tom Huckabee. So, you know, just bringing it back to another episode.
Wow.
Exactly.
Sort of.
He did look familiar to me, that actor who played the Brain, who I
he's
think
in
like
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has one of those faces that feels like he's in a lot of things.
Oh, he's a that guy. He's a
that guy.
He's been in everything from like Spy Kids 2 to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So.
Oh my god.
Like,
I think I might actually know him from Spy Kids 2 now that I think about it.
And the Disney Channel original film Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire from the year 2000.
Awesome.
That's fully what I know him from.
That's probably
What if the date that the mom has is Blaze dad?
Hey, there you go.
Oh man.
Also starring Richard Roundtree.
We have fun, don't we?
Marvel, call me.
Yo, this is an unexpected. Apparently, Leonardo DiCaprio's tennis partner is Lucas Haas.
Oh wow!
Oh my god! What?
I feel like that's like A-list actor and then like guy who's appeared in some stuff. Matchup. I don't know.
The thing about Leo that like, I mean, he is almost like 100% a Hollywood weirdo, just like everyone else is, you know. But like the one thing that does seem kind of like chill about Leo is that like he populates.
Get those
his,
ads
like,
off the screen. We aren't being paid from any of that. Get that off the screen.
Leo like populates his inner circle with like actors who aren't as famous as he is now, right? Like he was part of that kind of like brat pack of like, you know, like the what do they call the Pussy Patrol or whatever they called themselves when they were like
they all. I think they all feel bad about that now, which is kind of funny.
I think they do, but now he's just like, you know, like sunbathing like with a shirt on with like Jonah Hill and like playing tennis with Lucas Haas and stuff. Like it seems like he gets along well with like his co-stars and just like wants to vibe.
And buying the rights for another round for an American remake, which is going to be vastly inferior to the original.
And of course, dating barely legal models wherever possible. He's gonna
anytime
he meets one, to the point where people make jokes about it. I guarantee you though, I guarantee you, Leo's one of those people that's never like, you know, like they never are a minor. You know what I mean? Like. I feel like he skirts that line because he's
careful about it.
They're always
like Seinfeld.
I think someone
he's like Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and demanding ID.
Right.
That's exactly it. There's someone like did like a chart of it on Reddit because of course they did, and it's like the age gap like between him and whoever it is he dates is like consistently like since he became like 40 like 22 years old or something.
This is not news, guys. This is what men in Hollywood do. I don't know, you know.
Well, eventually he'll date a 40-year-old though, you know, like when he hits 60. So
exactly.
No, he'll probably still be with like a 29-year-old because he can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will just say I thought that the actor that played Dode was fantastic. He's only in the movie for like 2 minutes max. Like he doesn't have a ton of screen time, but I think he's awesome in it. And I think his character, for especially being like, you know, he's the one that gets blown away. Like I was invested in like that happening. Like I was very shocked by it. And I was also like, oh fuck. Like I don't want to say that I started to care about his character, but he manages to do a whole lot in, you know, only a few short minutes of screen time. And I think that's formidable.
Well, he's the classic, is that guy's name. And he's not only he's in Looper and in The Last Jedi and in Knives Out, but he's also in The Brothers Bloom, which is the Rian Johnson movie nobody remembers.
Oh,
he is
that's a good film.
Frequent collaborator with.
That was
Rian
his
Johnson.
next film, right? Like that was his second.
Yep, not very popular.
Huh?
Yeah, people forget about it all the time.
I forgot about it.
But it's Ruffalo and Adrian Brody, right?
It's a great cast. It's very well written. It's well directed. Like what's her face?
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz, is in it as well. I mean,
Robbie Coltrane.
Yep. Yeah, and Nora, what's her nuts, who's in this too, is she's in that also. She's in all kinds of stuff.
What wasn't she on Heroes for a little bit? Is that where I remember her from? She's like later seasons.
Yeah.
Or was it just another girl like with a demure face and like a pixie cut like that who was in Heroes?
Entirely possible. I don't remember. It's been too long. But she's been in a bunch of like stuff. Let's put it that way. Well, she's working a lot.
Perfect. So. She was in Heroes. I looked it up.
She was in Heroes. Okay.
Yes.
She had a story arc in
AKA X-Men. Yeah. Anyway,
she had a story arc in How I Met Your Mother when Ted Mosby decided to date one of his students.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched a surprising amount of.
That guy sucks. Like not. I like How I Met Your Mother. It's a funny show.
But Josh Radnor, you mean?
No, just the character of Ted in that show.
Oh yeah, he's awful.
Like
yeah, he's like the worst part of it.
Like he like Josh Radnor or whatever like plays him well, but like it's just the most like he's just the most pretentious fucking character. And you're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna hear this guy's story out to the end, but he's taking forever with it, and he just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, I dipped out at some point.
Yeah, I was about to say I watched a surprising amount of episodes of that show, and then I had this epiphany like I don't actually care about this, and I just kind of stopped.
Yeah, that's a good place to get with it.
Yeah. I had the same thing with Sons of Anarchy. I'm like, why am I watching this?
I mean, I didn't have cable.
Also, like, these guys are really bad at crime. That's the other thing I got from Sons of Anarchy.
I didn't
Wait till you get to the spinoff.
I didn't have cable at the time, and like it was early Netflix, right? Like when it was like that was one of those shows that was on Netflix that you could just kind of binge, and so I think I've seen all of How I Met Your Mother probably, but because there wasn't very much on Netflix at that point that
it's I would call it mostly harmless television, right? Like it's
watchable for sure. It's fine. Josh Radnor is awful though. He did that movie. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's the one that like all like the worst people on Twitter steal that like little meme from, where Elizabeth Olsen says like, you think talking about things you hate is cool and it's not. It's lame. Like
is it Happy Thank You More Please or whatever
No, it's called like it's called like higher education. It's about him being like a college professor who dates a student or something like that. Liberal arts, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
There is an argument to be made that of like the cohort of like 2000s sitcom stars who went on to direct a film, he is a worse one than Zach Braff. So I'll just leave it at that.
Do you want to jump into the one-liners so we can get to the after party?
I would love to. I'd love to for us. So of course, Letterboxd, as we all know, it's a place for film. It's a place where film lovers get to talk with and to each other about the films they love, the films they didn't love, the films they are weirdly thirsty for, and everything in between. And of course, this is best expressed in the classic Working in Your Tight 5 one-liner form, which we compile for this show for the movies that we cover.
Oh my gosh.
These are
I'm so
Letterboxd one-liners for Brick. Take us away, Forrest. Not how my high school experience went.
Okay. I can agree, yeah.
Yeah.
But mine involved watching
4
a lot more
stars.
Maniacs.
I mean, I don't know. I hung out with a lot of older random people, but none of them were heroin dealers, so I guess I'm doing well there.
Yeah.
Forget it, Jake. It's third period English.
Yes.
5 stars. 5 stars.
And a heart.
I have no notes.
That would have been an amazing like last line or something. If like I don't know, like he's coming out of that confrontation or whatever. They're like, forget it, Brendan. It's third period English. And
I love that.
I do like the last line of this movie.
I do too. Where the hell are the parents?
Look,
the only person with a parent is 26, and he's like
the kingpin.
Yeah.
listen, it's not important. You don't ask that question. You just go along for the ride.
You don't ask that question in It, right? Like there's only one parent in that story as well.
Well, that's just because they're latchkey kids. That was a Gen X thing. It's like, they was like, oh yeah, of course the parents are nowhere to be found, you know?
I feel like I wouldn't have asked the question, except that at one point on the phone, Brain is like, oh, did they call your parents? And then that's the moment that made me realize, like, oh shit, like, yeah, where the fuck are his parents? Like, I just assumed he was a like vagrant kid, I guess. I don't know.
This could be.
But it's like what JGL says, where it's like it's not that stuff is not there to be like, this is a representation of reality. Like the film is trying to be stylistic and theatrical and all of those things. So if you
take that, Kelly Cross, how dare you? Take a shot every time Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets beaten.
Oh, you'll be hammered by the end of the
for reals.
You won't make it to the end, guaranteed.
Much like Dode, your head will blow off in the middle of the fucking.
Upon rewatching, I was thinking that every woman in the movie is either dumb or manipulative or both. But then I realized that everyone in this movie is either dumb or manipulative or both. So that's fine then.
Well, their brains aren't fully developed. They're kids.
I think this person is well, he gave it 5 stars.
It's Bethy.
Yeah, but also 5 stars. Yeah.
I think this person is maybe misunderstanding the concept of the femme fatale, but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a time period of like extremely liberal, like I'm gonna do a feminist read of every single movie that I've ever seen, and like that's gonna be my thing. And I feel like doing that at some point gets exhausting. Number one, for everybody, including whoever's reading your stuff and whoever. But like at the same time, it kind of misses the point of a lot of the stuff. Like, oh, let me figure out why this is problematic, and it's like you don't have to. Just fucking enjoy it.
Yeah. It's also bad for feminism, for the record, to do that.
Carlee is, but though a self-professed bad woman, so take what she says on that regard with a grain of salt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets punched in the face at least 30 times in this film, and it's still not enough.
That person gets points.
Harsh.
That's funny.
Again, he's got weird vibes, bad vibes now, but
yeah.
In this movie, though, I'd say he has bad vibes too. Like his vibe is not. Yeah, I mean, on purpose.
He's not chill. He's not a chill dude in this movie.
Very unchill dude. Yes.
Maybe that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's transformed into his character from this movie.
I mean, he does hide a body. He
Right.
Which they never say where the body's hidden.
Right.
He obstructs a police investigation.
Yeah, at the end. So. But like, where did he put it before then? He didn't have access.
He's been keeping it somewhere, like on ice, presumably, because she wasn't rotting.
He put it in his absentee mom's room.
Probably.
Air conditioning on full blast.
Who doesn't love a good shootout in their mom's basement?
Mm-hmm. Yo, but you have to realize, like, that's really where the shootout happened. Like, that's crazy.
Legit. It is actually where the shootout happens. No,
and it's a classic noir trope of shootouts in mom's basement.
But it's a rumpus room, like amazing.
Right.
And it's I guess at the end they're at the Pin's house. But I was gonna say if it's like Tugger's house, like that's, I mean, that probably happens all the fucking time. Like he probably beats somebody to death in his fucking parents' house like once a week. Like
that's he's also got a gun, so I feel like he's wont to do all types of violence at the drop of a hat.
Gonna internalize this style of talking until it become incomprehensible to everyone around me.
I will just say again, initially I was like, haha, this is funny. And then after maybe like 20 minutes of it, I was like, okay, I'm super into this. And you also can't deny that like the writing is really good. Like it's really good noir writing.
Yeah, I actually really dig it. And it feels way more natural somehow than like most David Mamet stuff. And I say that as a fan of David Mamet.
Yes.
Yeah, for
totally.
Sure.
When he's sitting across the table from the Pin and Brendan is saying like, Tug's got to go. And he says, the 8 blows or I clam.
Right.
That's like one of my favorite lines. It's so good.
Well, especially considering the context of like that table is amazing.
Yes, and then he waves a friggin' rooster like milk pitcher at him. Like it's so good. It's excellent. Brilliant filmmaking.
That final speech where he like confronts her and like you realize like, oh, like the whole time he's been like building a case for himself that it really was Laura that did everything. And he's like, wait, meanwhile, you're getting bored or maybe just greedy. But when the Pin scores big with the bricks, you take your shot, you hook one, take half, cut it back to size, but you cut it back bad. That's taken right out of Dashiell Hammett, like, either Sam Spade or Maltese Falcon, I guess. But like, or even like the Continental Op stuff. Like I've read a little bit of Dashiell Hammett. Like that's a very Hammett-esque, I think, a very Maltese Falcon speech, I think, at the end there.
I just wish he
really
told
well
somebody,
done.
I just wish he told somebody's wife to shut up, like my camera does.
Well, that's Mickey Spillane. Dashiell Hammett's the guy that wrote Maltese Falcon.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I just love, I miss Mike Hammer, Mickey Spillane's Joe Biden.
Yeah, Mickey Spillane, Joe Biden. I forgot about that till you mentioned it the other day.
Yeah.
Literally, how can someone look that good with those stupid fucking glasses on?
Ask the guy that interviewed him. He's certainly seen it.
It's his raw sexuality from the violence and from the laying down in beds.
Exactly.
And the glasses. I don't.
Inherent vice principal.
Okay, that one's pretty good.
Wow.
If Brick was made today, there would definitely be a character who vaped.
Yes.
Multiple.
I mean, that's funny.
That's
After we just
true.
saw the picture of Lucas Haas vaping too, so it probably would have been
Exactly.
him.
There was a character that vape, apparently.
Right.
It's a Brick 15 years later. Anyway, those are the Letterboxd one-liners for the movie Brick. Follow the show, Movie Night Extravaganza, on Letterboxd. That's Forrest over there. I, of course, am Conan Neutron. You can follow me as well. J. Andrew World, also on Letterboxd, watching all the obscurest stuff that you would come to love and expect from the guy that name checks Blade's dad. And Aaron is also on Letterboxd these days, logging stuff, which is a Hit Factory Pod, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, you can find me at Hit Factory Pod. That's correct.
I am not on Letterboxd.
Carlee is
not yet.
Yeah.
I am, but it's just for me.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it.
It's good just for the watch list function.
It
Like
is.
Fight
sure.
Club, 'cause you don't talk about Fight Club.
Exactly.
Right.
The first rule of Letterbox.
Well,
Don't
we
talk
definitely
about
are violating the first rule of
Everybody
Letterboxd.
talks about
Well,
Letterboxd.
that's
Yeah.
why they don't. That's why they don't retweet our videos. They just like
Keep
it.
violating the
There you
first
go.
rule. Yeah. J. Andrew World, take it away with the plugs.
All right. If you're watching us right now on Twitch, and you can subscribe. If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free, and that really helps us out a lot. So, thank you. You're watching us over on YouTube. Do the YouTube things: like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, and watch the video to the end. This is a big ask, but you know what? Like, if you watch the video to the end, you get to hear a great Conan Neutron song, and you can pretend it's tub thumping this time.
Yeah, it's no
Yes.
tub thumping, but it's
No, but it still slaps.
but there's more flute than tub thumping. But yeah,
Correct.
I'm in.
Right on.
Yes. We have a podcast. I don't know where you get your podcasts from, but please, find us where you get your podcast and like us, review us, rate us, do those podcast things because that helps out. And you don't have to give us money. But you know what? If you want to give us money, we will take it because we have a Patreon. Go over to our Patreon. You will have access to the after party forever.
after
Forever.
after party forever. It's harder without Christina here.
I know. She built that thing out.
Yeah.
And then Forrest wasn't here to sing too. He's like coming back quickly.
Yeah, I did.
He's like, I gotta get back for after party forever.
Yep.
I missed the song. It slaps so much. I don't know.
Yes. Conan normally does Protonic Reversal on Thursday, but we're skipping it this week, which is a great chance to go back and listen to a classic Protonic episode. I'm going to recommend tonight that you check out the episode with Chris Murphy, who has also been on this show. So there's two episodes of Chris Murphy from Sloan. So go back, check that out. Great flashback thing. So for people, to if you need your Conan Neutron Protonic Reversal fix, that's a great one to go for. Dangerous Nomenclature is out if you want to get a copy. You can find that on. I forgot to write that down, and I just blanked on what
You
it's
can
called.
find it on
Bandcamp.
nowhere near my desk. I was gonna pick it up
Yes.
and show it, but it's nowhere near here.
Yeah, no, but you can find it on
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. Get your own copy of it, and digital or an actual physical copy. And records are available now. The vinyl
They're available for pre-order. Let's not get ahead
for
of
pre-order.
ourselves.
Okay, sorry.
Soon.
And you can also support Protonic Reversal's Patreon. And of course, I was just about to get to this Caterwall, which is the big thing coming up this weekend, which is why we're not having a new Protonic Reversal.
Why we did like 3 shows in the space of like 4 days or something like that too. So
Yes.
Thanks for accommodating me.
And we have 56 subscribers on it right now. If we get to 100, Conan said he's going to stream it on there. So please go on over there, follow follow it anyways, because who knows, there might be good stuff throughout the year, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm just trying to live to Tuesday. Frankly,
You got this. You got Tuesday in the bag, Conan.
And that's when we close out Movie Noir Extravaganza too, with Under the Silver Lake is last day of the month. So
And Fargo back to back.
And Fargo back to back. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And if you enjoyed this conversation, please check out Aaron and Carlee's hit.
Not the plugs. Nobody enjoys that. But if you enjoyed the rest of the show.
But please hit find their podcast wherever podcasts are available. Check out their episodes. I did listen to the to your Blair Witch Project episode after we talked. And that was really fun.
I'm
glad you
actually
think
somewhat.
so.
I'm a somewhat regular listener. Like I subscribe.
Conan.
Wow, Conan.
Yeah.
Aw.
Big reveal here on
That
the
makes me
podcast.
really
I love it.
happy.
That's awesome.
There's only
Thank
about
you.
4 or 5 movie shows I like, by the way, and it's been and we apparently are on a quest to have all of them on this show as featured guests.
Oh, you know, it's funny. You're
Deeply
now
honored.
You're now like our second, maybe third friend and listener now who has said, "I don't listen to movie podcasts. Yours is pretty good though." So apparently, our audience is people who don't like movie podcasts. So if you don't like them, check us out, I guess.
And
If
you
you
enjoy
too-
hearing me scream for a full hour and a half, because that's usually what I'm doing.
If you two don't like movie podcasts, subscribe to their movie podcast.
Yeah.
Hit Factory.
That's a great
And our
pitch,
movie
actually.
pod, their movie podcast, our movie podcast. We have this is tons of movie podcasts, and they're all, things that you might hate because you don't like movie podcasts.
They're all trash.
It's all linked together, people. It's one big conspiracy.
But you can also follow Hit Factory Pod on Twitter, and that is Aaron. And Carlee is on Twitter, if in theory.
In theory.
In theory.
Theoretically.
I'm taking a break, but what I like to say often is that I don't talk about anything important except for like Mariah Carey, and that's about it. Like, don't come to me for movie takes. I won't have that.
Come for the Mariah Carey takes, and if that's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you want.
The last,
Wow, what clear. Wow. Okay.
The writer of the last Christmas song ever written.
Right.
Look,
That's an unusual amount of
let's not
disdain
go.
for J&D World. I'm shocked.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I at some point it does get tiring to hear that song. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, it's
yeah.
during the Christmas season.
Yes.
I keep it like exclusively to December. It does not bleed into other months because it's too potent.
I will say
harm
this,
mitigation.
Somebody wrote this article as Mariah Carey saying that I wrote the last Christmas song ever and you should be proud of me. And it is an amazing article, or I might get the title wrong, but it's something.
Turn that
like
off
that.
and read that article. Yes.
I mean, it is an incredible feat. I know we're digressing here, but it really is.
Truly,
like to have an actual Christmas song that came in the last like 25 years is
and that's
kind of a big
original
deal.
and a classic.
Yeah.
By the way, are you guys
She's
gonna
great.
hop on for the after party for a little bit? We end up doing like we do like an hour, like maybe an hour, maybe a little bit less of just hanging out and like.
It's, believe it or not, it's more off topic than the regular show.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Shocking.
I know we've got a couple of animals whose survival is contingent on us giving them some things, so we might have to depart. Unfortunately, but
And it's also dinner time in California, so we need to eat.
we have to feed ourselves, we have to feed animals, and let at least one of them
Do the thing that animals
do the thing animals do after they
I was
eat,
gonna say
too.
let at least one of them out. Jesus.
We do. We have a dog.
Let at least one of them run away.
When we're taking care of the dog, we all get to poop outside, so it's quite a treat.
Quite the treat.
No, between this show and then the after party show, I have to take my dog out actually too. But she now plans for it. She's like ready to go outside when around the time the show ends.
That's
It's weirdly when we start singing After Party Forever. Is when
that's her cue.
It's her Pavlovian response now.
Exactly. Like, oh,
but I guess starting with Carlee, like final thoughts, anything you want to summarize this movie, or since it's your first time, I guess, having watched it, anything stick out to you that we didn't get to?
No, I will just say again that much like, begrudgingly listening to movie podcasts when you don't like them, this was a movie that I was like purely set up to hate, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that very rarely I watch things these days and I'm like moved by them and challenged by them and also like intoxicated, by them. And I felt all of those things watching this, and I think that in and of itself makes it definitely worth your time.
Yeah,
that's what I've got to say about that.
I agree with that. Aaron?
Yeah. I will. I was gonna say I'll echo Carlee's sentiments. Not quite.
Don't do that.
if you have not seen the film, or if you haven't seen it in a while and have some sort of expectations of what it is, or a memory that's less than fond of it, you are in good company. As I mentioned at the top of this show, I turned this film on a few days ago and started watching it, convinced that I was going to hate it, just like I had the first 2 times I watched it. And for whatever reason, its magic worked on me, and I am now a fan of Rian Johnson's Brick. As inconsistent a filmmaker as I think he is, maybe sometimes outside of this one, I think that it is a astonishingly assured debut film. I think it's very smart, very entertaining, very ambitious stylistically. Go watch it if you haven't, and if you have, go and watch it again every single day for the rest of your life, until you expire.
Or until the back, like your brains come out the back of your head, and
yeah,
precisely.
Yeah, dude, I that shot though, I can't stop thinking about it. Like it's
pretty
just such
evocative. Yeah,
they pull out of the thing, and then you just see him with the gun, and you just see the brains just fly out of the back of his head. It's like a crazy.
And smoke, literally smoke coming from the practical effects in that shot are incredible.
Yeah, I wish someone had asked Rian Johnson about it, because I kind of would want to know how he did it.
Well, we'll have to get him
too
on the
busy
show.
asking how Joseph Gordon-Levitt lays down. Apparently,
Instead, we spent like 20 minutes talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt being in beds.
Film journalists can't be trusted to ask interesting questions about anything. Sorry to all of our friends who are film journalists. We love you. You're great. We didn't mean you.
They also can't be trusted apparently to hold a microphone to the person and like figure that out, which I've done, like interviewed people that way, and it is like you don't know whether to give them the microphone or not, and then your arm starts to get tired, and you're like, can you just fucking take this? Like,
so Aaron, what I always say when I say something like that is I pull the Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack, and I go, "Oh, looks good on you though."
Yes, that's a good halo. I like that.
Well done.
All right, Conan, let's hear it. You picked this movie. This is the one
I did. I did
apparently
pick this movie.
You're the only one of the 3 of us that saw it before,
which is shocking to me. I felt like this was a pretty big movie in my world, and just because of the uniqueness and tone of it, the time period, and the fact that it is indeed a good film. As already at the time, I was already a fan of, or becoming a fan, I should say, of noir movies, and kind of knew most of the touchstones. So I was like, wow, it's cool how they're honoring all of these earlier films and these like things, these tropes, these like, visuals, but also kind of doing something new with it. And there's some genuinely amazing scenes in here. Like even like we didn't talk about like the tunnel when he first discovers her body, and you just hear the noise, and he's like, oh my God, there's someone there, and he books after him. That's an awesome scene. And that's up there with like, look, we already referenced The Third Man once, but it's like that's like just the subtlety of like little noises and things like that, the Foley, and having that Looney Tunes like cartoonishness, but also like the just insane brutality of actual violence, and have these huge stakes be, these are kids, and you get a little bit of both. And it doesn't do where it loses me with that kind of thing with other movies is when it's kind of like, oh, it's too small stakes. It's kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, ironic. And there's nothing wink, wink, nudge, nudge about this. And that's what I like it, is it's just completely deadly serious movie about the things that it's about. And I think it's fantastic. I actually like it better, I think, now than when I originally saw it. And what I love is that for this month, Movie Noir Extravaganza, if you haven't listened to or watched the other episodes, you should go back to them, because it has been a study of watching this genre develop. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this is after LA Confidential, which is sort of like the modernist version of classic noir, then you have what can convincingly be called neo-noir, which is this that manages to do the noir thing, but do so in a way that's very self-aware without being overtly self-aware. And that's why I think it's an awesome movie.
I would say Memento similarly, I think.
Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
except for in that case, as we mentioned,
I'm not even averse to using the term neo-noir throughout this entire.
Well, I just think it's a boring conversation, frankly. But yeah, in Memento, like, you know, the unreliable narrator, he himself is the story as well as the unreliable narrator, and that's the function that served to like add something new to the genre. I also just get annoyed, and maybe it's coming from the fact that I'm a musician, and you hear people append like, oh, it's post rock or post punk and this and that. It's like, well, those genres can still develop and change, and I firmly do believe that noir can develop and change, and that's another one of the reasons why I'm probably a tiresome person to talk to about that. But all the movies that we have that are the ones in the last like 25, 30 years, I think they all do something kind of interesting. You know, like we talked about LA Confidential this weekend about how like it's just low key the most ACAB movie you could ever find because all the cops indeed are bastards.
Yeah,
like I love that.
Time.
Not at all what James Ellroy was trying for at all, but like, you know, it's very real.
But it's great.
But yeah, like, these cops are getting too many entitlements. I need to cut down on this.
I totally agree, Conan. I think that's
thank you very much, Carlee.
Beautifully put.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. J. Andrew, most likely to noir world.
Yeah, I gotta say, when I first was like pitched this as you know, hearing like it's supposed to be like noir dialogue set in high school, all I could picture is Romeo plus Juliet. Like that's all I could think of.
Sounds
Which
like
is, you mean the amazing film Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet?
Yes. But that's all I was imagining, and I'm just like, oh, is this is, but like it's you know, actually kind of it, you know, it is a good film. It's you know, it tells an interesting story and has like the stakes just right, because like, you know, somebody in high school would be that obsessed with his ex. So somebody in high school would, you know, like, you know, you would completely ignore your parents like that, and pretend that they didn't exist. I know my children do that to me now. Yes, hopefully they're not out, you know, murdering people and stuff.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
But no, it definitely like caught me by surprise, like how actually good this movie was, because like on paper, like you know, it doesn't sound that great. I'm not going to pretend I'm a big Joseph Gordon-Levitt fan, you know, but he's usually fine at a lot of stuff, you know. But this is a
the feedback every actor craves. He's usually fine at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Doesn't trip over the furniture. It's all right. Whatever.
He knows his lines. Yeah, no, it's just
I didn't hate him.
Yep.
But like, you know, usually like I mean, like I said, I just rewatched Looper, which is one of his better films, definitely. And that bicycle movie, which I already forgot the name of because it's so stupid.
Premium Rush,
yeah. Which really isn't a good movie, but honestly, like he has this you know, charisma that I've not really seen too many times before. And you know, like I said, also like Michael, well, I forgot his co-star, the good actor he co-stars with in that movie as the villain, Michael
Shannon.
Yes, there we go, Zod. But anyways, yeah, no. So I was honestly not looking forward to this movie, and I'm glad I've you know, been introduced to it, because like I said, I missed it when it came out. I think around this time, the movie I was most excited about would have been Mirror Mask. Well, you're a guy.
I want to say my Michael Shannon take is that as good of an actor as he is, I think he put so much into. We just mentioned Michael Shannon. He just put so much into that.
No, Mirror Mask is the one that I'm like, what? Yeah, that one. That's the one.
I mean, well, visually, like first of all, it's kind of stunning.
There we go. All right.
And I'm a huge fan of Dave McKean's artwork, so like it makes sense. You know, it makes perfect sense why I was excited about that.
Yeah.
I want to say the Michael Shannon thing is he put so much into Boardwalk Empire that like I can never see him as anything else except for that fucking deeply weird like I guess sexually like starved and strange like fucking cop that he plays on that.
Well, I thought you were gonna say Kangaroo Jack.
His signature role, really.
That's right.
No, Boardwalk. His character in a Boardwalk Empire is amazing. It's very. There's a lot of layers to that onion.
Repressed. That was what I was looking for. Like repressed, straight, the one straight laced person in that entire show that just ends up being a fucking psychopath. Like,
yeah.
Which I don't think he's ever done anything with Rian Johnson, which is a shame because I think Rian Johnson could write a really good character for him.
Movie night extravaganza, matchmaker, make me a match.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's go.
Fancast.
I want it on my desk by Monday morning. God damn it.
Yes.
Tuesday, yeah. So I need to tell everyone the after party in about 10 minutes. We're gonna jump in on that. I gave it the best name I think I've given any after party, which is Got a Brick, Want a Party? That's my after party name.
That's good.
Good one.
That's good. That should be your one-liner on Letterboxd.
My final quote of the night, I guess, is you're gonna make me curious being so curious.